Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Hare Hare. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा महामंत्र की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। So our kirtan party ready?
What?
Yes, Prabhuji, we are ready.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Very nice.
Namaste Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale.
Where is your harmonium?
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Name.
Namo
Vishnu
Padaya
Krishna
Krishna
Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Name. Namaste Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshata Namaste Saraswati Deve
Gauravani Pracharine
Nirvishesha
Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine.
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda
Shri
Advaita
Gadadhara
Srivasadi
Srivasadi
Gaur
Bhaktavinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
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 Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bol Hari Bol, 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 Bol हरि बोल
बोल हरि
बोल
बोल
हरि
हरि
बोल
बोल।
मन
मन
रे
आनंद
आनंद भाई
भाई
बोल
बोल
हरि
हरि बोल।
बोल भाई बोल हरि बोल मन रे आनंद भाई बोल हरि बोल 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 हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल जन्म जन्म सुखे बोल हरि बोल जन्म जन्म सुखे बोल हरि बोल जन्म जन्म सुखे बोल हरि बोल
जाने में जाने सुखे
बोल हरि बोल 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 मानव जन्म पाय भाई 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 बोल हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल हरि
हरि बोल
बोल बोल हरि
हरि बोल
बोल बोल हरि 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 दुख ताको बोल हरि बोल दुख ताको बोल हरि
हरि बोल।
बोल दुख ताको बोल हरि बोल दुख ताको बोल हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल 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 हरि बोल हरि बोल चंपा देवी पते भाई 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 बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल 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 हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि गृहे ताको वने ताको बोल हरि बोल 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 कृष्ण रा संसार ताकी बोल हरि बोल कृष्ण रे संसार
संसारे
ताकी
साथी
बोल
बोल
हरि
हरि बोल।
बोल कृष्ण रे संसार ताकी बोल हरि बोल
संसारे भक्ति हरि बोल। हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। हरे हरि बोल। हरे हरि बोल। बोल हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल। बोल हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल। वैष्णव शरण तेरी बोल हरि बोल। बोल हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। गौर नित्यानंद बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। द्वैत बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। द्वैत बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि
Hey, Akshat.
हरि बोल हरि बोल। हरि बोल बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल। जय सीता राम जय लक्ष्मण हनुमान जय सीता राम जय जय राधे जय प्यारी राधे प्यारी राधे। जय राधे बिहारी जय राधे बिहारी। Prabhupada. Jai
Jaya Jaya
Prabhupada,
Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, Gurudev, Jai Jaya Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Srila Gurudev, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Hari Bol, Hari
Hari
Bol, Jai Jaya Hari Gita Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Guru Hari Bol.
Nitai Gaur Pramanande.
Hari Hari Bol.
Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai.
Wonderful kids.
Thank you, Prabhuji,
Nice
very much
Kirtan.
for giving
Wonderful
important
pray.
to
Yeah. Hari Bol.
Perform Kirtan. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice. Thank you, Kanchan. Thank you, Mukund.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Pranam all Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, we don't pranam Guru
Please
Prabhupada.
accept my humble obeisances, Prabhu.
Jai
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhuji, then with pranams, all goes to
Krishna
Srila
Mataji,
Prabhupada.
don't pranam Guru Prabhupada. Jai. Very nice Kirtan, so nice to hear the kids. They are very, very, oh, sorry. Just trying to get the gallery view up so I can see everybody. Hare Krishna. All right, so should we start with the recap from last time then?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Would someone like to take the lead in the recap?
Any volunteers? If not, then I can do. Okay. So I'll share some points what I remember. So we went through 2.38 to 2.40. I think 38, 39, 40, right? 3 slokas.
Right.
So before that, you just gave brief introduction of what we discussed previous, that Krishna was saying Arjuna to fight, and he used different approaches, right? From 11 to 30, Krishna describes about Gyan, the difference between the soul and the body, and then it is just to motivate Arjuna to fight. Then Krishna basically gave variety of reasons why he could fight, and because he's a Kshatriya, he has to perform his duty, and so then even if he fights and if he loses, he'll still reach heavenly planets because he did his dharma basically. He says Arjuna won't incur any sins because Arjuna had this fear that he'll incur sins killing his own people, right? But he says, no, you don't incur any sins. So you just perform your duty as Kshatriya and you're good. And then slowly gets into the bhakti platform. So how bhakti is basically is explaining how you can perform your duty, thinking about Krishna, and then everything is taken care. So you have to act in that knowledge. That is most important. For the sake of fighting, you should fight without considering any basically duality of this world. Okay. So because everyone has independence, and Krishna won't interfere in that independence. So it gives. So basically, we should perform our duties, and also you said like how we have to perform our duties towards our demigod, towards our parents, towards Guru, and Bhagavatam also confirms that, right? One of the slokas he says that. So that's what I could remember. If anybody else can share some.
I can share, Prabhuji.
Yes, ma'am.
So the summary of what Murli Prabhu just, Mukti Sangadas Prabhu covered is that Krishna does not take away our free will. And then at the same time, we owe many debts, like for all the 6 types, like demigods, sages, people in general, kinsmen, humanity, forefathers. It's really not possible to repay everyone. So Krishna is making it easy by saying that one who fulfills all only by performing bhakti, then you're fulfilling all the other obligations, because it's really not possible to fulfill each and every obligation. Um, and then 3 other key points is that, we also talked about 2 types of duties, 2 types of transcendental duties. And before that, you covered a concept of nivritti and pravritti, like how Krishna started. If we don't repay, then we are violated. So, to do all this, the easy solution is just serve Krishna. But then that work also should be without fruitive results. And then that's where, when we say without fruitive results, that concept you explain, like pravritti, nivritti. Pravritti, you perform, then you go to heavenly planets. But then nivritti marg is you perform, but no fruitive results, without fruitive results. And then you explain the 2 transcendental duties. In that, first one is like gnani, and the next one is which is the best service, which is dear to Krishna. And in both duties, it's everything is same. Like, for example, you know the knowledge that I'm not body, the soul, because you're gnani, you know the knowledge, and then detachment. But only thing is how the second one, the best one, is higher, because you're performing that only to please Krishna. Because of that, in the first category, we can attain mukti, but in the second category, you also get to associate with Supreme Lord. So that is the main key difference about the transcendental duty. And by being, apart from not only associating with the Lord, when you do this duty to please Krishna, you're also free from bondage of any action that we do. So that is the very like why devotional service, like even Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 10, you mentioned the example. And the next part is that's about 38 and 39. And then in 240, it clearly says that even by little advancement, Krishna will protect you. Even by little advancement, that's very you'll be free from most dangerous types of fears, even if we do very little, even if there is little advancement in us. That merciful he is, and that advancement is never lost, and it does not carry any karma. That's the shloka 2.40. But material advancement, what will happen? It may come, but you will get lost. But the spiritual advancement, you will never lose it. In fact, you don't even carry any karma when you do that, when you get the spiritual advancement. So that was the thing. And then you gave us the example of Ajamila, and also Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter 17, shloka. If someone gives up the duties and work in Krishna consciousness and then falls down, there's no loss. So it's not like a material advancement. That was the example he gave us. Then you said slowly from 41, Krishna will introduce the concept of more of bhakti concept, and he gives more elaborated of bhakti concept, Prabhuji. Yeah, that's the thing. That's all.
Thank you very much,
Covered it all.
Mataji.
you covered it all thoroughly.
It was very nice. It was good. Like last class was, like we listen and then you fix it, and then you are also able to write sometimes comfortably. Sometimes it's too much philosophy.
Yeah, the hand
listen.
doesn't work.
Sometimes even though you understood, you can't tell in words because it's, I don't know what word is there to use. But last class I really felt, oh, this is a good point for recap, so that you tend to remember. So that way I felt it's easier.
Good job.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much, Mataji. It's a very, very, very nice, very comprehensive summary, and you covered all the points. where we kind of left off on text 40 was that basically Krishna is now encouraging Arjun to fight, not on the basis of progress to heavenly planets and so forth, but now he's going to change his focus to motivating Arjun to fight as a matter of duty and bhakti. So it is bhakti, a devotional service, which will become the motivating factor. And so this is so 241, very, very important, very interesting verse. So today I was thinking, so we'll do 241, 42, 43, and maybe even 44. So Mukta Sangha Prabhu, would the kids like to read, or anybody would like to read? We'll start with 41.
Yes, so for kids, Brinda? (41) 241.
1 second. Vyavasayatmika buddhir
Vyavasayatmika buddhi
keha guru nandana
ekeha
Guru
gurunandana
ushaka hyanantascha
Bahusha
tayo vyavasayinam.
Buddhayo Vavasayinam.
Those who are on this path are resolute in purpose, and their aim is one. O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Brinda. Next, 42.
What is there? Prajna Mataji is there?
No, Prabhuji, she's not well.
Okay, Ji, I can read it.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, go ahead.
Prabhuji, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Switch on your video.
Yam
Yam
Imam
Vacham
Chitam Vacham
Vacham
Pravadanti
Avipastita
Vedavarta
Partha
Vedavada Radha Pratap
Asiti Vadaha
Kamatmana Janma
Pradam
Very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommended various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result of good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say there's nothing more than this.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Tyaguji, you want to do
Tyagaj, Prabhu?
Yes, Ji. Text 44. Bhogaisvarya Prasaktanam
Bhogya
Taya Praktasitasam
Taya
Vyavasyatmika Buddhida
Vyavasayatmika buddhi
Samada na Vidyate
samadho
Vidiyate.
A translation: in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Kaviji. All right. So we'll discuss these 4 verses. Start the invocation prayer. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagna Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So 241. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kuru nandana Bhushakahi anantascha buddhayo avavyasayam. So in this discussion, in these sets of verses, Vyavasayatmika buddhi, this is the key word, key topic, key point to focus on. And if you notice, Vyavasayatmika is repeated again in text 44 also. Text 44, second line, is again Vyavasayatmika buddhi. So Vyavasayatmika buddhi is kind of the stress that Krishna is placing in these verses. And this is the change in motivating factor that Krishna is now employing. First it was elevation to heavenly planets. Now it has become Vyavasayatmaka buddhi. What is Vyavasayatmaka buddhi? It means buddhi is intelligence and Vyavasayatmika, intelligence in Krishna consciousness. Intelligence in Krishna consciousness or complete focus on Krishna consciousness. So when he says Vyavasayatmika buddhi, Prabhupada here translates it as resolute in Krishna consciousness. Resolute, absolutely fixed in Krishna consciousness, no doubt in one's mind, as to the benefit or to the advantage of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna says, the translation, he says, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose. On which path? Path of Krishna consciousness, serving the Lord. Where the path is bhakti yoga, meaning wanting to serve Krishna as the ultimate goal. There they are resolute in purpose. And their aim is one. What is that aim? O beloved child of the Kurus, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. So straight away, Krishna is making a distinction here. He's saying one who is fixed in Krishna consciousness, his focus is single pointed. One focus. What is that one focus? You can call it bhakti, or in other words, pleasing Krishna by one's activities. The focus is one. I must please Krishna in whatever I do. That is bhakti. In many places, bhakti has been described. One of the verses is Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Sarvapadi Vinamuktam Tadparitnai Tadparitena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. So definition of bhakti is Rishikena, with your senses, serving Rishikesh, master of the senses. So a person who wants to serve only Krishna out of love, his determination is single pointed. So that's why he's saying one pointed, their determination is resolute. However, and then he's comparing, he's saying by contrast, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many branched. Meaning because they don't actually know the ultimate goal of life, they pursue many different paths, trying to find happiness. Whereas a person who knows that the ultimate goal of life is basically to serve Krishna, his then focus becomes single pointed. So that's Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. So in the purport also, Prabhupada says a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. So strong faith. Faith, according to Nectar of Instruction, faith is the starting point of this pursuit of bhakti. If you don't have faith, you'll not even come to this discussion or any discussion wherever it is taking place on the topics of spirituality. But if you have faith, then you will have an interest. So faith is the starting point. And so Prabhupada says a strong faith that by Krishna consciousness one will be elevated to the highest perfection of life is called Vyavasayatmika intelligence. That by Krishna consciousness we will be elevated to the highest perfection of life. What is the highest perfection of life? Stopping the cycle of birth and death and attaining eternal residence in Golokvrindavan in the service of Krishna. And so Vyavasayatmika buddhi or intelligence means having firm faith that through the practice of bhakti, through the practice of Krishna consciousness, I will achieve that goal. So now he's telling Arjun that this kind of intelligence, this kind of focus, this kind of faith is what you should now focus on and perform your duty of fighting by having this kind of faith. So there's Akshar also. Haribol Akshar. So that is the kind of faith that Krishna is advising Arjun to have. And then he says, in the purport, Prabhupada explains that this kind of faith is rarely found. If everybody had that faith, that would be wonderful, but everybody doesn't have it, so it's rarely found. And so there is, from Bhagavad Gita only, there is this verse says, Sa Mahatma Sa Durlabha. It is Durlabh, Sa Mahatma Sa Durlabha. It is very difficult to find a person, Mahatma, a great soul, who has this kind of faith. That is rarely found. But he's advising Arjun that this is the kind of faith you should have, focus you should have. And Prabhupada also explains in the purport that this practice of Krishna consciousness, which we are all attempting to do, must be performed under proper guidance. Just like here, Krishna is guiding Arjun. Krishna is the perfect and the supreme spiritual master. And Arjun has got the advantage of getting instructions in Krishna consciousness directly from Krishna. And even though we may not be seeing Krishna face to face like Arjun was, but Krishna's instructions can be received by us exactly as Krishna wants them to be received through the medium of a bona fide spiritual master. And so if we follow the instruction of the bona fide spiritual master, The spiritual master himself is following Krishna's instructions. And then when he conveys them to us, we are receiving the perfect instructions. These are instructions of Krishna. So this is as good as Krishna's instructions, because they are actually Krishna's instructions. It's as good as Krishna speaking to us through the medium of the spiritual master. And that's why in the morning prayers that we recite every day, one of the verses he says, Yasya prasado bhagavad prasado, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. Meaning, Yasya prasad, by the prasad, by the mercy of the spiritual master, we can get Krishna, Bhagavad prasad. And Yasya prasada nagati kutopi. Without his blessing, without his pleasure, without pleasing him, we cannot get Krishna. So it's a virtuous connection or cycle. By Krishna's, if you are sincerely searching for Krishna, Krishna connects you to a bona fide spiritual master. And if you please the bona fide spiritual master gives you knowledge of Krishna. So that is the way this connection works. Now, so Arjun is being instructed by Krishna directly here in 41, and then in 42, Krishna is now in 42, 43, and in 44, Krishna is now directly giving Arjun the reason why Arjun should not follow the path of Karmkand or elevation to heavenly planets, which up until now Krishna only had been giving Arjun as a reason or motivation. That Arjun, if you fight and if you win, you will enjoy this earthly kingdom. If you die, you go to heavenly planets. And now Krishna is saying, forget about all of that. Forget about all of that. I'm giving you a higher purpose, a higher reason for performing your duty. Because, and why is Krishna saying this is higher? Because then he describes men of small knowledge are very much tied to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, result in good birth, power, and so forth. And he says, being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say there is nothing more than this. Krishna is saying that for most of us, we want good family, wealth, health, progress, power, fame, etc. And for achieving these things, there are sacrifices that are recommended in the Vedas. And Krishna says, but remember, by performing those sacrifices, you may attain those benefits, but they are temporary. They are temporary. After a certain period of time, your pious credits, which you accumulated through performing sacrifice, those credits will finish, and you will come back again to this material world. Again, this cycle will start. So don't. That is why don't pursue temporary benefits that are given in the Vedas. Instead, and then in 44, Krishna gives further reasoning why not to. He says, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So he says, if you just follow, or if you are attracted by these promises for sense enjoyment, meaning good birth, good money, and all these things, then it will be very easy for you to get distracted by these things, and you will not be able to focus on purely serving me with devotion and pleasing me and getting an even higher result than having a good life in this planet. It says, if you come to the spiritual world, think about it. By going to the spiritual world, whatever we lack in this world, in this life, whatever we lack will be more than compensated for. Because life in the spiritual world is blissful. Everybody has a Satchit Ananda Vigraha there, meaning it is eternal, it is full of knowledge, and it is blissful. Just like the Lord's form, everybody's form is full of knowledge, eternal, and blissful. So Krishna is saying, come for that. Come for the highest reward. Don't pursue smaller temporary rewards. Now, this verse here is kind of like a summary instruction to all devotees or all students of Bhagavad Gita that engage in devotional service. And it is the same theme we find in many places in our scriptures, including Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1 itself, Suta Goswami, in the beginning of his narration to the sages of Naimisharanya, in Naimisharanya, he quoted a verse, he spoke a verse to them where he said, Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvatampati Shrotavya kirtitavyascha Dheya pujascha nityada. So he says that, so the Goswami said, Tasmad ekena manasa. Remember now, this is the connection, what we read here, Vyavasayatmika buddhi. And over there in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sudha Goswami is saying, Tasmad ekena manasa. Ekena manasa means one-pointed resolution, single mind. Ekena is one, manasa, mind. So one-pointed focus. Tasmad ekena manasa. What should you do? Bhagavan Satvatampati. Bhagavan Krishna is the protector of everyone. Satvatampati. Pati means protector. And Bhagavan Satvatampati, Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha. Shrotavya, hearing about him. Kirtitavyascha, glorifying him. Shrotavya Kirtitavyascha. Dheya, remembering him. Pujas, worshipping him. Nityada, constantly, every day. So the instruction is Tasmanikina Manasa Bhagavan Satvatampati. So with a single-minded intelligence focus, one should do four things. Four things. What are those four things? Hearing about the Lord, Shrotavya. Glorifying the Lord, Kirtitavya. Remembering, Dheya. And worshipping the Lord. So these are four things that were recommended. And Prabhupada very nicely explains, see, this activity of glorification is very effective. Even in our mundane experience, we have seen when you turn on the TV, let's say when the elections were going on, I'm just using an example, when the elections were going on, all you saw in the TV, in the newspapers, were glorifications, and I mean this a little in both ways. Good points and bad points were being brought up about the different candidates. And all the time, one party is talking good about themselves, bad about the other, and so forth. So, and through that propaganda, one becomes aware. Who is good, who is bad, who did this, who did that. And Krishna is saying, our Shastra says that instead of wasting our time on all these mundane stories of who did this or who did that, what good is that going to do for us in the long run? What good is that going to do for us? Will it make us happy? Will it take us back to Godhead? Will it relieve our problems in life? Nothing. It will do nothing of that sort. It's waste of time. But instead, if we are glorifying the Supreme Lord, Shrotavya, glorifying the Supreme Lord, that will take us back to the supreme goal. Then remembering, when you watch TV for some time, then when you turn the TV off, you come away, you still remember, oh, I heard this, then you talk to your friends, you talk to your family members, this is what I saw, this is what was happening. So you're remembering all that. So same way, when we talk about the glorification of Supreme Lord, that's what we remember. Now that is a worthwhile thing to remember. And then puja, worshipping the Supreme Lord, pujascha nityada. So vyavasayatmika buddhi, one-pointed intelligence in serving the Lord. Tasmad ekena manasa. This is also talking about remembering the Lord in order to serve the Lord. So Krishna's instruction to Arjun to act in devotional service and disregard the temporary benefits that come from the Karmakand section of the Vedas is what is being focused here. Now, you might ask that Krishna is the one who has given us the Vedas. So why is he telling us to ignore some of the things that are in the Vedas? Would anybody like to comment on that? Maybe we can make it a little more interactive.
Well, he is the personification of Veda. If he is there, then we don't need to go through the Veda. If he is there, actually, as a personality of God, right? So we don't need to go and read anything else. That's what I think.
Sure.
Can
But-
you reframe the question, please, Prabhu, again?
The question was that in these texts 42 to 44, Krishna is saying to Arjun that don't focus so much on the Karma Kand section of the Vedas. But they are part of the Vedas which are given to us by the Supreme Lord. So why is Krishna, on one hand, we accept the Vedas as the word of the Supreme Lord. And on the other hand, Krishna is saying, okay, you ignore these pieces. He's telling Arjun, don't be attracted by the flowery language of the Vedas and instead focus on devotional service. So why is he saying like that?
I mean, basically, Vedas cover everything for all kinds of people, all kinds of consciousness, whatever they have. So everybody may not be on the same level of consciousness in Krishna consciousness, right? So there may be people who want to slowly elevate from, karma kanda, then jnana kanda, then bhakti. So for them also Vedas help. So Krishna is telling that now you know all this. You have some gyan about the karma kanda. Don't get into that. Elevate yourself to bhakti yoga. That is ultimate. So, and also the Vedas in other sloka, one of the slokas Krishna says, right? Vedasya sarva ahameva vedya. So all the Vedas I am to be known because I am the compiler of the Vedas. So he says that whatever you do, you learn Vedas, whatever you do, if you don't understand Krishna is the supreme, if you don't know Krishna, then there is no point in studying Vedas, any part of the Vedas, whether Karma Kanda or Jnana Kanda, doesn't matter. Yes.
Very nice. Thank you.
Prabhu, another thing is the Veda means that is the end of knowledge, right? Essence. The ending is in Krishna. Either he is the starting and also he is the ending. So whenever you have that person right there, what do you need? Any books or anything, any references?
Right.
He's the end of knowledge and beginning of knowledge.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. So as Sangha Prabhu said, Bhagavad Gita 15:15 says, Vedesha sarvera ham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva cha. That by the study of the Vedas, what is the purpose of studying the Vedas? To know me.
Mm-hmm.
To know me. And so there are different stepping stones. Somebody may be totally disinterested in Krishna, but wants to gain wealth. So Krishna has those prescriptions in the Vedas also. He says, okay, a person will come to the Vedas for finding out sacrifices to gain wealth. But then when they follow those sacrifices and they gain wealth, what will happen? They'll say, oh, these Vedas are very wonderful. Vedas are very wonderful. They get attracted. And then as they delve deeper into the Vedas, they are taken higher and higher and higher. Their understanding becomes higher and higher from just pursuing wealth, just pursuing fame and opulence. Then they come to a higher stage where they say, who is behind all this? Then they come to the part where they realize Vedescha sarve rahameva vedyo. That Krishna is the person behind the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas is for us to understand Krishna. So it's this gradual stepping process, gradual. The Vedas are a very scientific and very, very structured way to elevate people from whatever level of consciousness they are in, to bring them higher and eventually bring them to the platform of bhakti, to the highest platform. So that is the purpose of the Vedas. So that's why Krishna is telling Arjun, you are an advanced student. I'm giving you the highest knowledge that is to be had from the Vedas. And that is engage in devotional service to me. And in
Prabhuji, to tell in, I'm sorry, Prabhuji. I thought
oh, no,
you.
go ahead, Madhu. Go
No,
ahead.
Prabhuji, go ahead. Then I'll listen.
So, and then 42 to 44, he's telling him not to get distracted by the temporary benefits that he can attain from following the sacrifices, etc., mentioned in other parts of the Vedas. Now, it is, as we have discussed earlier, maybe, the Bhagavad Gita is a book of knowledge in 700 verses. In only 700 verses, Krishna gives the full philosophy to Arjuna and therefore to all of us. But Bhagavad Gita is connected to Srimad Bhagavatam. How? Srimad Bhagavatam gives us case histories or examples of devotees who follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. So it's like you get the principles in Bhagavad Gita and you only see you only hear one conversation, is basically Krishna and Arjuna. And of course, there's Sanjay repeating everything to Dhritarashtra. But Bhagavad Gita gives us the summary principles. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us examples of those who followed the principles of Dharma. And therefore, it inspires us, it motivates us, and it gives us real life examples that we can follow. So now, Vyavasayatmika Buddhi on this topic, example from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, where Sutta Goswami is telling the sages in Nemicharanya Tasmadekina Manasa. Then in Canto 2, when Parikshit Maharaj approached Sukdev Goswami, he basically said to him, and I'll just read the translation. He said, "Oh great Parikshit, constantly wrapped in thought of Lord Krishna, knowing well of his imminent death, renounced all sorts of fruitive activities, namely acts of religion, economic development, and sense gratification, and thus fixed himself firmly in his natural love for Krishna and asked all these questions exactly as you are asking me." He asked all these questions exactly as you are asking me. So Sutta Goswami is kind of telling the sages in Nemicharanya that these exact questions that you asked me, Maharaj Parikshit asked Sukdev Goswami. So this comes in Canto 2. And so why I'm quoting this is because here we are seeing real examples of those who have followed the principles of Bhagavad Gita. So Parikshit Maharaj, grandson of Arjuna. Arjuna got the instruction from Krishna. Parikshit Maharaj's grandson, he's following in the same footsteps, and he's asking Sukdev Goswami that, I've got 7 days to live. I don't want to focus on economic development, religion, dharma, arth, kam, and moksha. I don't want to focus on that. I just want to focus on devotional service. So please narrate to me the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. So this way we understand what the principles are and who has followed these principles. So coming back to the principle then, the principle being focused on here is Krishna says that, and I'll just actually read the last paragraph of the purport here. Prabhupada says in text 41, the whole process, however, depends on perfect knowledge of the soul beyond the conception of the body, not theoretically, but practically. When there is no longer a chance for sense gratification manifested in fruitive activities, one who is not firmly fixed in mind is diverted by various types of fruitive acts. Serving Krishna in devotional service becomes our complete focus, or Krishna wants it to be our complete focus. Otherwise, whatever action we perform, we will have a tendency to perform it for fruitive results. For example, I mean, simple thing like eating. If we don't offer the food and eat, then we're just eating for our tongue's satisfaction, isn't it? After all, when we eat something, we don't go and chase something that's not tasty. We always want to eat something which is very tasty and palatable. But there, the reasoning is, oh, I'll eat this because it's very tasty. The reasoning is not that I'll eat it because this is Krishna Prasad and it will purify me. So Krishna is saying, nobody's saying don't eat. Please eat. Eat nicely. Eat healthily. But eat for the sake of purifying yourself. Eat Krishna Prasad. So similarly, any activity we perform, when we perform our work, when we perform our regular activities at home, they should all be performed with the mentality of trying to please Krishna. How each one of us does that in our day-to-day life, that depends on our personal circumstances. But that becomes the guiding principle. So there is a lot of material here to cover, but I think I'll open it for questions so that then we can keep it interactive. So if anybody has any questions or comments, we can go on to those now.
Prabhuji, not a question, but just the comment that when you were asking us about the Vedas, so if we can tell in two simple sentences, Vedas has to be considered as a path to know Krishna. We can't say Vedas has this, so to achieve this, I'm following Vedas and I'm achieving this. No. Then the person who has that knowledge that I should have the Vedic knowledge plus the knowledge of why we have to use the Vedic knowledge is to know Krishna, then it is that would be the complete purpose. So if someone knows Vedas, then that's not sufficient, because you need to know that knowledge, that use that Vedas to reach me. That's the that's what I think in my understanding words I felt like after listening all of you.
Yes, Madhuri, that is exactly, you've summarized it very nicely. That is exactly what the purpose of the Vedas is.
So from this lecture, Prabhu, so we have to have one pointed focus, and then we have to do 4 things you said: hearing, glorifying, constantly remembering Krishna and worship him.
Right.
And we had the question about Vedas. Vedas is the ultimate is Vedas. Everything, all the knowledge is condensed in the Vedas. So if Krishna is the writer, author of this Veda, so don't you think that by studying the Vedas, you are also knowing Krishna, because he is the author? I mean, he and his writing is non-different, right?
Right.
So when we are reading about Vedas, so naturally our heart will go to Krishna. I mean, our mind always wants to know who is this, whatever we are elaborating on, we are going to know about Krishna. So we got that. And then the last one, you said, what is it? We are repeating the same thing. We are focusing on devotional service.
What was your last point, Madhuri?
The last one, what I'm saying is, focus on devotional service. That's the thing. Lastly, I got it. Because we forget about the sense enjoyment and you focus on Krishna.
Right.
We don't worry about temporary benefits. You go on focusing on one thing, that our final goal is to be in touch or constantly remembering Krishna.
Yes. Yes, Madhuri.
So we are also, you cited that all these Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam gives you specific example of personalities or persons, elevated souls, who has followed all the Bhagavad Gita principles, dharmic principles.
Yes.
So that way, that makes it easy for us to know these people have followed and received the benefit of knowing Krishna. So then that makes it easy for us to know, by knowing those examples, it is easy for us to know, okay, there is a possibility if we can follow the footsteps of the higher elevated souls.
Exactly.
It'll be easy for us to know Krishna too.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
Prabhuji. I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it like there are falastutis in every thing what we read or hear, right?
Right.
Did you say that everything, all those falastutis are like temporary benefits?
Yes, those are temporary
Um,
benefits.
because like there are some falastutis which recently I've been reading. It's like, for Chaitanya Bhagavat, one of the falastuti, like for one particular pastimes, it says like whoever hears the pastime of Sri Vishwarupa accepting the sannyasa order of life is freed from the noose of karma and attains devotional service to Lord Krishna. This cannot be, I'm just trying to understand, this cannot be temporary, right, Prabhuji? Like once you are coming out of karma and attaining the devotional service to Krishna, that has to be something permanent unless you perform some kind of negative activity where that can be taken off.
Right, exactly. And so so what you quoted, Mataji, hearing about the sannyas pastimes, that is again, that comes under the category of glorification of the Lord, because we are talking about the Lord's pastimes. So, even though in this verse from Bhagavatam there were 4 methods or 4 practices that were stressed upon. There are basically 9 processes of devotional service. These 4 are part of the 9. Sharanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pad Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyamata, Nivedanam. So this hearing of the pastimes, that comes under Shravanam. So that's why it doesn't have temporary benefit. It will have permanent benefit. And like you said, hearing about that pastime gets one to the platform of devotional service because it's directly hearing about the glorification of the Supreme Lord.
And I've heard some falastutis like, it can transform your heart, you will get a lot of bhakti and all that. If that is the case, then if you hear that particular pastime, then your heart should change. It should long for Krishna's association or for service. But that generally doesn't happen with most of us. It takes so much of practice, but the philosophy is such that it says that you will be attracted to the service of Krishna or something like that. In such cases, how do we understand that, Prabhu?
Through the process of repetition. You see, because when we hear the pastime say once, or if we hear Bhagavad Gita once, that is good. But that's not enough for us to get purified. Because what happens is that we are, after all, we are in this material world. We are in material bodies. So we are under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. And those 3 modes, goodness, passion, and ignorance, Satagun, Satagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun, they constantly distract us here and there, here and there, here and there. But the way to bring ourselves back onto the line of bhakti is by constantly hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping. So these 9 processes, any one of these 9. That's why constant engagement in all of this is necessary. And that's why I was said repetition, meaning constant engagement. That's why that verse from Bhagavatam also says, Tasmadikina manasa bhagavan satatampati shrutava kititavisa deya pujascha nityada. The last word is nityada, meaning constantly. So constant reminders, constant engagement, repetition, that is important.
So the philosophy doesn't work just because we heard once. Every day, all the time, it has to be some kind of hearing about Krishna. Only then that works.
it works more effectively the more you engage in it. Through one engagement, it will definitely have benefit, but we have a tendency to forget also. So that's why the processes of devotional service, as you very well know, they require us to do certain things daily as a matter of discipline, as a matter of habit. So if we have to chant 16 rounds, they say chant 16 rounds daily, not once a week or once a year. It's daily, because it keeps our mind focused on the sound vibration every day for a certain period of time. So constant engagement and repetition is the key.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madhavi. It's a good question.
So anything, I would like to add one more thing, Prabhu, if you.
Yes, Prabhu.
So regarding the same Palastiti, but anything which is related to Krishna is very auspicious. So it comes under bhakti. So that is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita again and again. One of the most important verses is Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvata tektva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So he says that Janma karma, even if my Janma and karma is, all the activities of mine is very divya, auspicious, divine, it's very divyam. So one who knows this, then he doesn't come back to this world again. So anything related to Krishna, his activities, his birth, and his form, his nature, everything is divya. So all these stutis, they all fall under that basically. Talk about the glories of Krishna. Yeah, that's all I want to.
A very nice point, Prabhu. That so that one who understands, one who understands that my activities and appearance is transcendental, meaning it's not under the law of karma. It is because I have come here paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya dushkatam, to help the devotees. One who understands that, Krishna says, then he tattva deyam punarjama naiti mamiti suvamtya, that he doesn't have to come back to this material world again. But to understand that, we need that constant engagement. Otherwise, we forget.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I was just remembering my question, which I asked like a week ago. I asked, like in Nectar of Devotion, it's given that if you take Panchamrit, then you'll go back. So if someone asks, like, if you take once, then we're done. Like, is it that good? So at that time, the answer given was constantly and faith. And so, like, the first part of the question that Mataji asked, I was just trying to share my understanding. Like these Falashrutis, like how you explained a bit earlier that from these Vedas, you're trying to know because they are the tools. So through Falashruti, you're trying to know about Krishna. You're trying to know that he's the supreme, and we're trying to know what is the goal of life. So the Falashrutis are helping us as a tool to know. So, and the next part is, it's not once. Why it is constant? Because I forgot the name, Prabhuji. You mentioned one example, Madhvacharya, I don't know, but he took one of the devotee upstairs, and then he said, jump. And then if you fall, then you got hurt. But when he took the devotee up and then he made him fall, then nothing happened to him. He said, that is the faith. I'm not remembering the name of the Acharya. Is it Tyagaraj or Madhvacharya? I forget, Prabhuji. I don't know, somewhere
Is it
in Satsang.
Yamunacharya?
Somebody in Satsang only gave that example also. And also like the other answer for the similar question that when I asked about Panchamrit, said why we have to do constant is we're not perfect. So we think, oh, today I've done, I will get it. But again, you're going back to the old mode, like you know, like your sense enjoyment, or name it anything, right? So because we should, that shouldn't come back to us like first class devotee, they say uttamadikar, we have to keep doing constantly, then we get to that stage and the faith will increase, and then we are using the right tools and right direction to go. I'm not able to remember that example, Prabhuji.
Yeah, somebody else must have mentioned, because I didn't mention that example.
Yeah.
Other questions or
Narsimha Prabhu had some question.
Yes.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Just a comment about that topic about Falashruti. I was thinking that if we look at it on a much grander scale, on how we have taken so many millions of births, and if we look from that perspective, then those Falashrutis may already be like working. That's why we are in Sadhu Sangha and slowly moving towards the Lord. So is that correct, Prabhuji?
That is very correct. That's a very good point, Narsimha. You see, the fact is that Krishna says to Arjuna, Kontyapati Jayani Name Bhakta Pranashyati, that my devotee never perishes. What does that mean? That whatever devotional service you perform will never go waste. And that's what we discussed last week also. So the fact that we are all here together, we have an interest in this. It's not because we just developed an interest somehow in this life. This is definitely coming from previous lives. But the beauty of it is that we have now, like you were saying, Yasha Prasada Bhava Prasada Yasha Prasada Nagati Dopi, that by the mercy of Krishna, we have been connected with Prabhupada, who has directly come from the spiritual world to deliver us, and he's given us this perfect understanding. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Chaturvida bhajante ma. See, there are 4 types of people who come to me. 4 types of people. One who is in need of money, one who is in distress, one who is inquisitive, and the other who's searching after knowledge. So there are 4 types of people who come. But those 4 types of people come to Krishna only because they have accumulated pious credits in their previous lives. But once you get to this stage where you start performing bhakti, following the processes of Krishna consciousness, then this is like kind of the final stage. And by the mercy of Krishna, by the mercy of the acharyas, they will help us then not come back to this material world, but go to the spiritual world. Takta deham punarjanma naimiti mamiti sukhante. So that is why you're right, that all the pious activities that we performed in previous lives, they have brought us to this point.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
So in the processes of devotional service, I just want to clarify one thing that we mentioned about in that verse, Tasmadikena Manasa Bhagavatam. There were 4 processes mentioned, but there are actually in Bhagavatam 9 processes are mentioned, and these 4 are covered under those 9. Whether you perform 1, 2, 3, 4, or all 9, the result is still the same. So now the 9, Shravanam is the first, Kirtanam is the second, hearing and chanting. Shravanam, Kirtanam, and then when you hear and when you chant or recite the glories of the Lord, what happens? Vishnu Smaranam. You remember Lord Vishnu. When you are glorifying Lord Vishnu, you're talking about Lord Vishnu, naturally then you remember it. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, these 3 flow together. Then fourth one, Shravanam, Shravanam, Pad Sevanam, serving Lord's feet of the Lord. Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. So worship, offering prayers, Vandana, Dasyam, doing service as a servant, Atmanivedana. Eventually come to the point where you say, okay, I fully surrender to the Supreme Lord, Atmanivedana. So those are the 9 processes, but these 4 are what was focused. These 4 were the focus of that verse that I quoted. Other thoughts, questions?
Thank you, Prabhu.
So in text 44, basically, I just wanted to kind of not lose sight of this point. So in text 44, Krishna says the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment, opulence, etc., the resolute, the resolute determination for devotional service to Lord does not take place. And there Prabhupada describes the meaning of samadhi in the purport. Now, samadhi means fixed mind.
What is it, Prabhu?
Samadhi means fixed mind.
Okay.
Fixed mind. So
Okay.
when we hear about samadhi, we typically get visions of, we think that it is some yogi who's sitting in the forest and he's stopped doing all other activities and so forth. That is one kind of way to sit in samadhi. That is one way. The other way, which for Kali Yuga is more recommended, is by dedicating all your activities to the process of bhakti. So what Krishna says in text 41, Vyavasayatmika buddhi, meaning if your intelligence is focused on serving Krishna, then whatever activities you perform, let's say you're working, you say, okay, I'm working for the pleasure of Krishna. Part of the fruits, the money that I earn from my working, I am going to use it in Krishna's service. You're making that sacrifice, you're making a conscious effort to use what you get from your work in Krishna's service. Then your mind is that means your mind is focused on Krishna. So that is samadhi in a more practical way. This is activity with samadhi. You are performing activity, but in a state of samadhi. And the other process was ceasing activity in order to attain state of samadhi. So both practitioners are trying always to think of Krishna. One is sitting down, stopping all activity, and focusing his mind on Krishna. And the other is engaging in activity for Krishna by remembering Krishna and therefore attaining samadhi. So that was the point in text 44 that I wanted to kind of touch upon before we forgot.
Okay, Prabhu. So perform activities with a fixed mind in a samadhi state to attain Krishna. That is one kind.
Yes.
And the next one is stop activities to go into samadhi,
yes.
to see
Yes.
Krishna.
Because that was the process, but that is not recommended for this age of Kali Yuga, you see.
Oh.
Bhagavatam says, Kriteyak Dhyato Vishnu Tretayam Yagato Mukhai. So in Satyug, Kriteyak Dhyato Vishnu, but meditating on Vishnu was recommended in Satyug. Then in Treta Yagato Mukhai, performing elaborate sacrifices. Then Dwapare Paricharyaya, in Dwapara Yuga, it was through elaborate deity worship, Paricharyaya. But then he said, Kalau Tad Hari Kirtana. In Kali Yuga, it is through Hari Kirtan, through chanting the glories of the Lord that one can attain the highest perfection. So Samadhi in Kali Yuga means focusing your mind constantly on serving Krishna.
Hmm.
not stopping activity, but engaging
Okay.
in activity.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu.
Welcome, Mother.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mother.
All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, I have a basic question. So I'm just quoting an example just to make my understanding better. So every day we cook prasadam. Like I'm telling a practical example. We cook prasadam. But it should be done with the motive that it should please Krishna. But we do it like what my kids like, what uh, what is tasty, delicious, but we never have that consciousness. So will that be considered what we offer? But we offer the food and we eat, to satisfy our tongue finally. So will that be considered as at least a step we are like trying to, get into devotional service? Or I'm just giving you an example, but these are like every day, we do a lot of things. So I just wanted to know about that, Prabhuji.
No, it's a very practical example, and it is definitely an act in devotional service because you're offering it to Krishna. And even though you're saying that your motivation initially or your thought process initially is, what do I like to eat? You know, but let's say you say, okay, today I like to eat such and such vegetable. You know, but when you think of preparing it, naturally you're thinking, I will use only ingredients that are offerable, right? And then you offer it. So the very fact that you have gone through that thought process, that I will not use something which is not offerable, why are you doing that? It's because you want to offer it, and it's because you know that Krishna will not, he's not, the recommendation of the Shastra is that don't use such and such ingredients because they're not pleasing to Krishna. So even though you're not consciously or actively thinking, and uh, you think that my motive was, okay, I wanted to eat this vegetable, so I kind of went and bought it and prepared it, but you have still gone through the thought process of thinking whether it's offerable or not, what ingredients I'm using, and then you're offering it also. So when you do all these things, naturally you are remembering Krishna. So it becomes an act of devotional service. After all, we may not necessarily know, is Krishna interested in eating laddu at my house, or we don't necessarily know that. And by the way, Krishna is not in need of anything. Whatever he wants, he has it. This is more of purifying our existence, our thought process, and by preparing the right way, we are getting purified. So it's an act of devotional service for sure. Same thing with other activities also during the course of the day. Very practical question. Thank you for asking that, Mother.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Prabhuji, even I was thinking like this because some other devotees had asked in different lectures. So the thought that I got, Prabhuji, okay, yes, today we feel like making idli, but then the moment it's like you're deciding the menu and you're telling Krishna, I'm making idli today for you. But somebody has to decide. But in the decision, you may think because you feel like eating. But then if we think like, oh, today shall we make idli? Yeah, Krishna, I'm making idli for you today. It's like you are thinking him. That's one small thought that came to my mind, because otherwise it's difficult. Or like how Mataji asked, sometimes kids ask, sometimes we ourselves feel, oh, it's been a while we made this, but then, okay, Krishna, I'm making this today for you. It's like instead of telling, oh, how do I know what Krishna wants? It's difficult, but our thinking is, today I'm going to make this and offer to you. So then maybe we may feel little comfortable.
Yes,
I
of
just
course,
wanted
nothing.
to-
That's, yeah, that is the reality. I mean, after all, your kids might ask, please, can you make such and such thing today? That's perfectly fine.
Is it not like Krishna is speaking through them?
Yeah, who knows?
Prabhuji, sometimes like
I was
Prabhu,
thinking of saying that, then I thought, anyway, but I'm glad you said that. That is true.
that's what I'm saying. If someone says, "Oh, today I think maybe Krishna wants to eat gulab jamun," that's who wants it. That's
See,
common.
yeah, I don't think we should ever think that if we are interested in eating gulab jamun today, oh, it's very opulent food, this is just my sense gratification. No, Krishna every day eats the most opulent food, right?
Mm.
And he eats the simplest thing also. You know, that's why he says patram pushpam phalam toyam.
Mm.
Give me any
And
simple thing also, meaning that he doesn't say, I mean, he's making it easy for anybody in any economic condition to please him by offering him whatever the person can offer. If somebody doesn't have anything else, they can offer water only. He says, you know, patam phalam toyam. Toyam is water. Just give me water. If you don't have money. So he's made it easy. But it is entirely possible if your kids want gulab jamun, then maybe Krishna is speaking through them.
and also probably sometimes due to like tight schedule or some kind of circumstances, we also feel, oh, today I can't make this, I can only make this. But when we are offering to Krishna, I mean, just one thought came to me like, Krishna, this is all I could do for you today. Still you're trying to tell him that, today is a simple menu. Then we don't feel ourselves that, um, oh, I couldn't make like that, because it's just the life. Then that thought will make you feel little, okay, I told Krishna that. It's not that we're intentionally escaping.
Yeah, exactly. Food is a very easy way to engage in devotional service. And it's a daily activity, cooking and eating. So it's a very effective way of engaging in devotional service. In fact, Prabhupada says Karma Yoga starts with eating, because you're eating every day, everybody is eating.
I think we are good, Prabhu.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much.
thank you very
Okay,
much.
Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Thank
Ji.
you, Prabhuji.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All goes to Sri Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhu. Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namo. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mukti Sangha Prabhu. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Without you, we wouldn't listen anything. Thank you. For this Zoom meeting, they are really good in this COVID-19. Without Zoom, we won't be available.
Thank you, Prabhuji.